And let me put the share screen up with you. So I know that several of my colleagues are on the call as well. So if you're not familiar with me, you'll undoubtedly have had communications with either Steve, who's our operational hub lead and has a cluster of schools in Hatfield as well. And then I was looking, I've got Debbie Blaff, who looks after our schools in North Herts and Stevenage, Chris Stoughton, who looks after our schools in Broxbourne, and now I'm delighted to say East Herts as well. Jackie, who is our special educational needs school specialist enterprise coordinator. Then Leslie, who looks after St Albans and Dacorum, and Shay, who looks after Watford, Hertsmere and Three Rivers. Let me put the screen up now. There we go. Okay, so just to give you some overall context, the Hertfordshire Careers Hub, the phrase Enterprise Advisor Network is essentially obsolete now because the Careers Hub takes over the whole of Hertfordshire. But really, just to reiterate what I said there, you guys as Enterprise Advisors play an absolutely essential role in the development of the Careers Hub. So although you won't hear the phrase Enterprise Advisor Network used, perhaps even at all or as frequently, please don't think that that's any reflection on the fact that your role is any less significant. We continue to be funded through the Careers and Enterprise Company. So the Careers and Enterprise Company funds, I believe, 40 hubs up and down the country. The intention is that in the not too distant future, every school in the country will have access to being part of a Careers Hub. Within Hertfordshire, all of them are able to join our Careers Hub. We are now working with 110 of the 112 that are eligible across the counties. There's only 2, and we have had some initial dialogue with both those remaining 2 as well. So hopefully by the end of the academic year, that number will be 112 and it'll be universal coverage across the county. Currently, we have 122 enterprise advisors that are supporting it. That number is incredibly fluid and it can go up or down from any day to day, which is like its nature essentially of running a volunteering program, which of course you guys all are. I did have a look at this yesterday. I came across a register that I'd done almost exactly to the day 2 years ago, so back in February 2020, and then we had 104 enterprise advisors with us, of which 52 of those are still with us now. So it's about 50% churn from them. Some of which are on the call at the moment, and I know some of you have been with us right from day one, which even received my time on the program. This is, so I've been playing around with word clouds. I found one that you can do that provides a free one, and I generated a lot of information about our careers. I put it in, and these were the words that came up, or the concepts of word cloud. The words that come up larger are the ones that appear the most frequently. So school and careers and leader, I guess, are all good words that we'd want in there, but also words like skills and collaborate in there as well. Just to focus on some of our key partnerships, this is an exhaustive list of all our partners across the Careers Hub, but these are some of the main ones, with us as the local enterprise partnership and Careers and Enterprise Company at the top of that. Then some of the other organisations that support us, who either sit on our hub strategy group or our operations group, and then the name of employers you can see down the bottom. Those are all of the employers that currently sit on our Cornerstone Employer group. Some of you actually sit on that Cornerstone Employer group as well. Then this is just a bit more analysis. Now, this was done in December, so it is very fluid, so it has moved a little bit, but this will present a picture which I'm sure won't be too different now. So we had a look, and it was a fairly sort of crass, in some ways quite subjective analysis of the different industries that you represented. And as I'll come on to talk about, we really want to think about the priority sectors that we have within Hertfordshire. So I've tried to map the industries that you guys represent against some of those, and you can see that the one that is most frequently represented, I say you can see, there's so many colours in there, it may not be that obvious, but financial and business services is the one that more than a quarter of you represent, which is one of our priority sectors. Then construction comes up quite high, as does life sciences as well. On the whole, just over half of our EAs are from large employers. We do always want to make sure that we are representing and we are discussing and putting forward the case for SMEs as well. So it's important to us that we have SMEs represented, and that particularly schools and young people can find out a little bit more and have a better understanding of how SMEs can fulfill their potentials as well. I think the gender breakdown, we've always been slightly more weighted to females than males. There's about 2/3 to a third. Then this is just something that a lot of you may remember from last summer. We wanted to do a piece of work really which identified how different enterprise advisors can support schools, because I mean you're going to see a fantastic example very shortly of how Justine's done some incredible work with the school that she's working with in Hertford at the moment. But I think what we've begun to recognise is that all of you bring something slightly different to the table. So we don't want you ever to feel that what we're asking of enterprise advisors is completely prescriptive. So if you see something that Sam at Tesco offers, clearly she has got a much larger scale and resource pool that she can tap into compared to some of you who are maybe working, you're self-employed. So we wanted to reflect the fact that there are many different ways that enterprise advisors can support schools. And I know some of you will have done this activity or exercise with your coordinator or with me, perhaps to try and map your particular skill sets to one of those main six areas that you can see on the screen at the moment. Some of you will fit more than one of those, and it may not be quite so obvious which one those you fit, but we're confident that all of you have something that you can bring to the table. So hopefully throughout today's session we'll give you some more examples of just some of the things that have worked well and worked successfully that you may be able to replicate, or you may be able to put your own spin on. But really you all offer something to a school that they wouldn't have otherwise. If you're not aware of these, this is just how the Careers Hub links into the Hertfordshire LEP's wider agenda, particularly around skills. There's some documents on there that are listed, and you will all have access to these slides afterwards. But if you wanted to read up on slightly more some of the bigger picture things that are going on across the county at the moment, then these are 3 things that point you in there. And so the Careers Hub and working with schools is very much a part of that, particularly around the developing future talent across the county. This is more something I put in induction, so this is something that you guys who are slightly newer perhaps wouldn't be quite so familiar with, but this is something that we've been sharing more with schools and head teachers who increasingly we've had an audience with this year, and it's just reminding them of that that network and that collaboration that takes place between a careers leader within the school, one of our team as your coordinator, and you guys as the enterprise advisors as well. We've also been trying to encourage school governors to become more involved in the process as well, because we think they can often provide a different angle as well. So some of you may find that school governors, those with responsibility or linked responsibility to careers, may start to become involved in that as well. We think they can be really powerful friends and people to have on side. I listed or just went through the team earlier, but there is a visual for you. That was our team get together right at the start of the year. We were very nice, well looked after by a computer centre who facilitated us for a day to have a bit of a sort of team building day right at the start of the year. So you'll be familiar with at least one person, probably 2 or more from that list. Yeah. Just to map out a little bit more about what our Careers Hub model looks like. You're probably familiar with the area that your school's in, but effectively we've got 4 clusters because that's more manageable to deliver that across such a large number of schools. So cluster 1 was our first cluster, and that is North Herts, Stevenage and Welwyn Hatfield. You'll have to forgive my very poor, and I'm conscious that Justine's coming on afterwards, who is very good on digital marketing, but the my formatting isn't great there, so I apologise for that. Cluster 4 isn't going into Essex, by the way, just to clarify on that. Cluster 1's North Herts, Stevenage, Welwyn Hatfield. Cluster 2's down in the southwest, 3 Rivers, Watford and Hertsmere. Cluster 3 is St Albans and Dacorum, and cluster 4 is Broxbourne and East Hart. So they all have a sort of similar-ish number of schools within them, so they're all sort of quite manageable. We one of the key differences for schools that were previously just considered to be part of the network compared to now being part of the hub is that our expectations of them are that they will be can be completing Compass at the end of every term. We had a really good return rate actually against national averages right just back before Christmas. We had a couple spilled in just after Christmas as well. So we've got a large number of we've got a large amount of intelligence and data to work from here, and this has helped to identify where there are some trends and where there are some particular weaknesses and challenges, but also where we know there are things that are going on, some real strengths per cluster as well. So you can see on that top line there the sort of state of benchmark scores across those different clusters, so you can see how they compare against Hertfordshire. So Hertfordshire, we're pretty much on 5 benchmarks on the money, which is slightly above the national averages. Cluster 1 is just about bang on that amount. Cluster 2 is a little bit behind. Clusters 3 and 4 are a little bit ahead of that. There's a number of reasons for that, and there's probably a few caveats to throw into that as well, which I won't go into now. So again, as you're all aware, Compass is a self-assessment tool, and therefore there is an element of subjectivity about some of it. But on the whole, we still feel it's a pretty reasonable reflection of where schools are individually and as a cluster and as a county as well. So if I'm looking at that, I would say that there are some things that we should be really pleased with within Hertfordshire, where we have been consistently above some of the national averages. There's always been that struggle around benchmark 7, where we always seem to be below the national averages for that as well. And again, there are perhaps reasons for that.
Remind me what benchmark 7 is, Gareth?
Yeah, so benchmark 7 is effectively it's around post-16 options. So it's making sure that all students have got access to information around university, around what colleges offer as an alternative to sixth form, and around information about apprenticeships as well. So there are 6 different areas of benchmark 7, some of which are quite disparate, but essentially they're all covered around making sure that all students have got access to all the range of options that are available for them. If anyone's got any questions on anything I've just raised there, then it's your opportunity now to ask those. If you think of anything later on, then please do as well. But that should just give you a bit of context. And so the significance of having Compass updated is, and all the data that CEC produces, the more that schools do it, the better they are going to be at trying to attain it. So our targets as a hub are, most of which are still built around Gatsby. As I'll come on to later in the session this morning, I'll talk to you about some of the more of our strategic aims, of which Gatsby is one of them. So Gatsby certainly isn't the be all and end all around what we're trying to do, but it's a part of it. So our KPIs are around hitting benchmark 1, which is around having that stable careers programme, and we are targeted as a county or as a hub area to have 80% of our schools fully achieve benchmark 1 by the end of the academic year. So currently we're on 55% with that, of which our cluster 4 schools are the closest to getting there at the moment, and there's work to do with the rest of them. Now, I would say within benchmark 1, for those of you that are sort of students of benchmarks and of benchmarks 1, you might be aware that benchmark 1 has 17 sub benchmarks to it. So we know that to get to 100%, it means that schools have done all of those 17. Now, some of these are quite binary. You've either done them or you haven't done them. What we do know is that there's a large number of schools who are very close to getting benchmark 1. Sometimes it's literally as simple as they need to add a sentence onto their website to say that this section is relevant for teachers and students. And that's the difference between them not getting benchmark 1 and getting it. So there's some really low-hanging fruit with benchmark 1, which we can try and meet. We're also targeted with just improving benchmarks 5 and 6 throughout the year to make sure that we're a better state at the end of the year. So benchmarks 5 and 6 were around students going out and having experience of going to visit a workplace, of having meaningful encounters with employers and employees. Now, as we've discussed in the past, and it won't be of any surprise that due to the pandemic, benchmarks 5 and 6 have really been impacted, particularly benchmark 6, which is around students actually going out to school and going to visit a workplace. Benchmark 5, there's been been able to do some things with that because of virtual encounters are able to provide some meaningful encounters in some instances. So we want to see progress with those. Our other KPIs from CEC are that all of our schools are achieving at least 3 benchmarks. As you can see there, that 83 of our 110 are currently achieving those. So we've got a list as a team of coordinators. We know who those 27 schools are that aren't quite there yet, and we've got an action plan, or we will be building action plans in place, of which, if they are your schools, then you'll obviously play an integral part in that as well. And our other one is to try and hit 5 benchmarks as an average, which we're at the moment, but obviously we would like to push that on a little bit and be sort of closer to 5.5. Okay, I'm going to take that screen down now. Again, yeah, if you've got any questions, either drop them into the chat. Okay, Bex has asked a question. Steve, I can't access that. Can you just read that question that Bex has put in the chat there?
Yeah, no problem. Other than University of Hertfordshire, are there any other HE providers in Hertfordshire? I feel we should know this, but it just popped into my mind to ask this question. I was wondering if we have any awareness of different universities which have an affiliation with our county via employer degree programs as well.
Okay, yeah, good question, Bex. So there's no other universities, no other HE providers in the same sense as University of Hertfordshire. We've got UXA, which is broadly out of Oakland's college, although that's more looking at working with people already in roles, so trying to develop them, people already in the workplace. But in terms of HE for students coming through, University of Hertfordshire is the only institution within the county. I mean, of course, we've got some pretty close. You've got all the ones in London, which are generally sort of quite accessible, particularly for students down in the south. Anglia Ruskin is probably the closest one. You've got ones like De Montfort, they've got a campus in Luton. So there are others who are pretty close by, and I guess, yeah, if you lived out in in Tring or in Hemel, actually going across to to Buckinghamshire might be more accessible than coming across to Hatfield in some instances.
Yeah, University of Buckinghamshire is one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So there are other ones that are that are close by. There's some logistical reasons why perhaps schools might struggle to get students to universities, which is one of those sub benchmarks within benchmark 7.
There are a couple of HND and HNC courses delivered by the colleges, Gareth, which would enable students to do their first couple of years at home and then finish off at the 3rd year at uni.
Yeah, there would be, yeah, and so equally foundation degrees. So I know it's very niche, but Watford Football Club offer a foundation degree for students who want to get into sports. I think it's around coaching and performance, but they're possibly looking at doing one around hospitality or events as well. So there probably will be other providers that perhaps don't spring to my mind straight away, that do offer other routes, and Chris has given some other examples in there as well. Okay, fine. Okay, well, look, what I'm going to do at this point then is I'm going to hand over to Justine, who is Enterprise Advisor for Seal School in Hertford, and I'm really keen for her to share something that she's been able to achieve with her school. So I'll hand over to Justine, and then we'll perhaps take some questions and some comments afterwards. Justine, you should be able, if you've got anything, I don't know if you're presenting anything. If you can, you should have access to it.
Okay, that's great. Good to know that when I press the share button, it will work. Thanks, Gareth. Well, thank you for inviting me to share what we've been doing with the Seal School. So my company, we fall into that SME part of the pie chart that Gareth was talking about earlier. We are a team of 20 based in Hertford. We're a digital marketing agency called Cariad Marketing. So some of you may have heard of us, some of you won't have done. What do we do? Well, we're in the digital space. So we do do all kinds of marketing, but our biggest areas are social media marketing, search engine optimization, and pay-per-click advertising and content marketing. And working with the SEAL School, the conversation I quite often have is that, you know, how important maths and English are, and particularly English in marketing. Now, some of it stands to reason, but perhaps not when it comes to social media marketing. I say social media and you might think Facebook, you might think Instagram, you might think TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, whichever is your poison. And actually we work with clients, obviously putting out campaigns on all of these platforms, both organically and the advertising. And in order to recruit people, we have a methodology at Cariad where we like to bring in fresh talent and train them. So it's all about recruiting for attitude and training for skills, because social media is such, like all the digital disciplines, it's such a fast moving world and the rules are changing all the time, that actually we are far better off training and having a training program and a career progression plan within the agency for young people to follow. So that's the background, that's where we came from, and we thought, well, how can we produce a lesson plan that would be beneficial to show young people why English and grammar skills in particular are really important in social media. Because again, young people, if they're sitting there watching TikTok every night, they probably wouldn't even think in a million years, if I said, well, if you were to do TikTok as a career, what skills would you need? They'd probably just think they need to be really good at videoing things. And actually that's not the case. They need to be really good at English, because everything on video content needs captions, and actually in social media across the board you need to be able to write great copy and really compelling copy, and that's whether it's something that someone's going to organically see in their social media feed, or indeed be presented with an advertisement. So we created a lesson plan, which seems to have had some really good feedback. I'm really thrilled because when I went into this, I really didn't know what I was doing, and I wanted to be really brave and have a go. And actually, it hasn't had to have any amendments made to it, and I was just so proud of it, because I've obviously not unlike many of yourselves, I haven't actually done this before. But I'll share with you the lesson plan and see what you think, and if it can be of any use to any of you, obviously you are welcome to use it and to share. Or if you need to write something for the schools you work with, you might want to use it as a template to sort of help you. So hopefully when I press this screen share, I'm going to be able to share with you the right one. Can you see it yet?
Yep, we can. Yep.
Great. I go full screen. I'm feeling confident now. Okay, so the objective of the session was for English, obviously, to recognise the importance of spelling and grammar. And from a career perspective, to tie this to highlight the relevance of English spelling and grammar skills to careers in social media marketing. First of all, we set out by trying to help the young people understand the key terminology, because obviously marketing is a broad church and often confused with advertising. So to explain and define the terms marketing, advertising, and understand what social media is in the context of that. The discussion is around how the young people would define these terms, because there's lots of different definitions, and maybe have some discussion around that, just so that everybody starting out actually is guided as to what the correct terms are. And then obviously it goes on to actually giving what the official answers are for each of those areas and definitions. So moving forward, we then go on to the introduction part, which says, let's see what the young people know about social media, and asking challenging questions and making them think just a little larger than perhaps the social media channel that they know themselves. So thinking about how many active social media users there are in the UK in total, asking some fun questions like who was the most followed TikTok account last year, looking at who do you think is the right age group that's on Instagram in the UK? And actually trying to, again, paint that bigger picture. How much do they think big brands are spending on advertising on social every year? And the feedback we get is that young people are quite surprised by the answers, apart from the one about who's the most followed account on TikTok, which lots of them know, so that's good.
Who is it then, Justine? Because I don't know.
God, I can't pronounce the name very well. I knew someone would answer me this. It's somebody D'Angelo, Charlie D'Amelio.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, personally, TikTok's not my poison. My team are mad for it. So we then asked the young people to correctly identify the social media giants, and again, this was not sort of it was trying to make them think that social media is more than just TikTok, and actually make them realize that things like Snapchat is a social media channel, and WhatsApp, and puts a couple of logos in there that they wouldn't get, like the Reddit one in the center, and Vimeo. Lots of the young people were very familiar with YouTube and TikTok, but Vimeo perhaps less so. But the idea was, again, is to try and understand the fact that social is more than just the one that you use, that it's and they're all very, very different. Each platform has its purpose, and just to have a discussion around that. She presses on. We then asked them to think about the brands that are present on social media. Now, obviously, again, there are real gender differences as to, with young people, which is their channel of choice, and how much they use it. But we talked about some of the big brands that are on there, such as Boohoo and PlayStation and KFC, etc. And they would come up with loads of other ones as well. Putting that into context of bringing it in the English and the grammar skills, it then sort of becomes very much about, well, unintentional errors are made by brands. Hopefully you can spot the mistakes and you can see them. And of course, these images went viral, but for the wrong reasons. And so again, it's about young people understanding that if a mistake is made, it can go viral, and just how bad that might be for a brand. We then talk about the fact and have some discussion with them over the fact that intentional errors are made too. So we're talking about the importance of English and grammar, but actually people can sometimes set out with their campaigns to actually do quite the opposite. And there's a couple of examples there. Still in the lots of errors occur, we then start talking about the celebrities getting it wrong, because the celebrities are brands in their own right. They're personal brands, but they are still brands nonetheless. And actually looking at some of these and actually getting them to spot the mistakes and work out what is wrong with these posts. We've taken posts from different social platforms, again, so that they can see that there is spelling mistakes and grammatical errors that are made across all social media platforms, and also trying to get them to think about, well, what does that make you think of the person that got it wrong, and actually, what would have been the better way to treat it. So obviously there's different examples. They're all very high profile, and again, all went viral for the wrong reasons. Looking at it in the context of a brand as they might think of it, it's saying, well, what do you think this post says about this business? The fact that the Creative Kids software one got it so wrong when we were talking about their learning, and the one that just gives a little bit of a laugh, obviously, is the Grub Street example. But it does show, again, how do people perceive companies that get it wrong with their captions on social. We then, again, for the interactivity, and people seem to be doing this in different ways, whether they're splitting people out into groups or whether they're just shouting it at, everyone having a consensus, is guessing which celebrities tweeted these. Some may be more obvious than others, and they've all got mistakes in them. And sometimes it because the grammar will make such a difference on the context of the caption, it's quite staggering what effect that can have. So we ask them to spot the mistakes, guess which celebrities tweeted them. Interesting enough, we ran this in-house first of all and asked our team to look at it, and they a couple of them they got straight away, and there's one on there that's much harder than the rest of them. Because the point we're trying to make here is that grammar can make all the difference. Who wants to end up with a tattoo looking like that? But again, that was viral. And the one about I just ate, my kids couldn't be happier. I just ate, my kids couldn't be happier. Does actually go to prove the point. So, and it's kind of like, hopefully it does bring it home to people, the importance. So then we give them some fake tweets to try and unravel. Then this was the hardest part of the challenge for us as a group of people who spend our life crafting posts and making sure they are in very good English and grammatically correct. To actually write it incorrect is a huge challenge, and then unravel it. So, but they were examples of all sorts of things that the young people could have a play with, and see how they could make them better. And then we start to talk about content creation, because that's obviously what social media marketing is as a career. And we gave them some points of note to guide them, that social campaigns for business are written in advance. So actually not everything's written on the fly. Yes, for sure, the personal brands, the celebrities, they do write them on the fly. But even then, a lot of them are heavily censored by their managers. Proofreading is essential to check for embarrassing mistakes. And actually, you should be really self-critical and look at your own work and see if you can make it any better. All elements of everything you write on social media needs to be cohesive. It's got to have a title if applicable, the caption, which is the text, image should be consistent and move the reader towards an end goal. And that could be buy this product, or it could be call us now, whatever that might be. We wanted them to think about you mustn't waste followers' time. To build big social media audiences, you can't waste people's time. And all posts should be relevant, interesting and engaging. And the big one we want them to remember is what goes on the web stays on the web, because actually the examples I have used in here of embarrassing tweets have all been deleted from the social media platforms, but they're freely available on the web. And it's a bit like anything else, it can stay there forever. So we then asked them to have their turn, and we asked them to create a tweet for their favourite sports brand, to promote a new range of trainers. The thought process behind that was that there will undoubtedly be a phone in the room, there will undoubtedly be trainers in the room, and somewhere, most people will have a sports brand that they like. Obviously, the great thing about a tweet is that you've got 280 characters there, and you've got to give running enthusiasts a reason to get excited about your new running shoes. So what their task is to create their tweet. They've got the 280 characters, and they can add an image or a video. Again, the image, if someone didn't have a phone, they could draw it, and it could be it could be a drawing, it could be created from something using their creative skills, or indeed they could film it on their phone. It's really up to them. But again, it gets some very interesting fun going on, and it actually really makes you think about keeping it short and sweet and to the point, but trying to add your enthusiasm in there as well. It shows that it's quite an interesting challenge. So when that's all done, then it's just talking about the career opportunities just in social media. And as I mentioned earlier, social media is but a small part of what we do here at Cariad, but it is very, very important. And our social media team is growing almost month on month. So the kind of careers that are available are obviously the planners and the buyers and the strategists and community managers, advertising execs, content writers, copywriters, videographers, influencers, consultants. I mean, there's a whole range, but you do need to have those you need to have decent English and grammar skills. And we also, because obviously we're an agency, just want them to understand that actually there's a really nice career progression path. And that's not just in our agency, that's pretty much in any agency. So if you go to work in an agency, you can come in as an apprentice or an assistant. You can come in with no skills and you can learn your craft. And there is a nice career plan there as well. I think that's pretty much it. She should say, just give it a click. That should be the end. Yeah. Hopefully, that should give you, I'm trying to work out how to stop sharing. That's easier said than done. There we go. Am I 1, 2, 3 back in the room? Good. So the lesson was created. I have shared it with on another EA call, and some schools got in contact, and they've started using it as well. The idea was it brought fun, but for me it was about making helping young people to understand that social media isn't just something you do for fun. You can actually have it as a career. And in my personal experience, if you're really passionate about what you do it really well. So those that are really passionate about their TikToks and Snapchats and Facebooks and Instagrams, they could actually make a career out of it and make a really good amount of money. So hopefully that was just an insight for them that would be helpful.
I think that was brilliant, Justine. I'm sorry to jump in because I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. The first thing is I just think you've produced such a fantastic quality lesson plan. So I'd like to pinch it if I may.
You're welcome, Ruth. You're welcome. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah,
I've only done one. Everyone else does loads, but I've done one.
No, you should definitely be proud of that because it's a really good format. And the second question in relation to that is, I can imagine that if you or any of your team from your business were going into school to present that, you would be really confident because this is your role, that you know this sector inside out. Do you use, talking about the different levels and progression of career within social media marketing, do you yourself and your agency use the apprenticeship route?
Do you know what during COVID we had to stop having apprentices because it was hard enough all being remote, but we are back in the office now and we will be recruiting for we've got a few apprentice positions coming up in the coming months. Yeah, so I will be looking for social media apprentices.
Yeah, because I was just thinking that if you've got sort of younger people that are progressing through, they would be brilliant to come into a class because they're, you know, more of the age of the students, aren't they? And sort of it really brings it to life for them then.
Yeah, we've got some really good stories. I mean, it's a couple of years back, but we had, you know, they have the awards in Hertfordshire Awards. We got Apprentice of the Year was one of our apprentices, who was actually, they started in social media, but actually what we discovered was that where their talents and their real passion lied was in SEO, and actually they changed their direction. But the great thing about being in an agency is you can do that. You can find what you're really good at if you rotate, and then you can go into the area and specialize where you're best. So I mean, yeah, the one thing I do have or find as a challenge, not with social media. Anyone who joins social media, they tend to be quite outgoing people that on social media teams, but certainly on the more data-driven disciplines, you tend to find they're more introverted, and actually asking them to stand up in front of a class of young people would actually really upset them. So but on the social media side, that probably wouldn't be the case.
Brilliant, thank you.
No, thank you, Ruth. Does anyone have any questions? No? Great. Have I escaped?
No, there'll be a few more, Justine, don't worry.
Sorry, just one more, Justine. Sorry, I was trying to get my hand button up. It's Namdi. A really great presentation.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I was just wondering, what school year was this sort of targeted at? And I guess it's really interesting because my son is like, I think he's 9 or 10. And I think this would be really great for him because he loves social media. And I think the whole sort of thing around language as well, I think, and grammar, and how important it is at that sort of young age as well. So I just wondering, what age group was this targeted at initially?
Steve, you could probably help me out here, but I think it was Key Stage 4. Am I saying that right?
I think it was sort of year 9, year 10. They felt was the best sat currently in the curriculum and the content, sort of both married up really well. But you can see how it could easily be adapted to go younger, and how it could be adapted to go up to sixth form. I think that's one of the beauties of it, and there's a link in the chat to where the lesson plan's been hosted on the Hertfordshire Opportunities portal, but we have a feeling that it's going to be so successful that it'll end up being on the Careers and Enterprise Head Office Resource Directory, which is national. to over 4,000 schools. So I think it's going to gain quite a bit of traction. We've got Sam Sullivan, who's been coming in and out of the call today, who is also part of the session that Justine was on, and Tesco's have got a number of lessons. So there's definitely 3 or 4, Natalie Siddy's on the call as well. There's definitely 3 or 4 enterprise advisors on this call currently who've taken a crack at what Justine's done, and we'd encourage more and more of you to get involved. I know, Namdi, from an NHS point of view, it'd be quite easy. Karen Kingsmill's quite interested to come up with some lesson content, and then again, like Justine's done at the end, you then pull it into what jobs that could lead into, and again, our employers on the call may be interested as well to do that.
Thanks. Good, thank you.
Hi. Sorry.
Dorothy momentarily had her hand up. I don't know if that's the question.
Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the point I put on the chat, Justine, was whether I appreciate it's a bit of an ask, but would you be prepared to sort of run the session in somebody else's school, given your enthusiasm and your understanding of all the actual content? I know it's a bit of an ask, but I just
if I can fit it into my schedule, I always say yes. I'm really passionate about developing young people's skills. I think that, and I am also really passionate about bringing young people into our sector. I don't think the young people realise things like social media is not just something they use. It is a really good career, and they can earn a really good salary. Sure. But what they need to make sure that they're doing is studying on their English when they're at school, or their maths. The maths is important. And I guess actually, if I was to do this all again, Steve, for you, I guess the next one needs to be more data driven, and it probably needs to be about how and why the numbers, your basic maths is really important. In marketing, because again, people don't realize that.
Put it into like Google Analytics and put it in again into a real world situation where students might be a little bit switched off from maths, but if they realize that it's around social media and analytics and stuff, is another way that you could take it in that direction. Yeah,
absolutely. Just also because I'm an EA in a special school. The students largely are deaf. But there's lots of individuals I've now met that, it's not just the upfront roles that some of these kids would be pretty good at. It's the quieter ones that need doing and need diligence. So yeah, that would be great. Perhaps we can follow that up. Cheers.
Yeah, just if you get in touch with me, if I can help, I will do, or if I have any resources or anything. I mean, we have obviously training decks that we use to train the young people when they're here. So again, there is stuff I do have at my fingertips that I'm always happy to share knowledge, because I'd like to think that if I ask somebody else to share stuff with me, they would do the same. So please do ask.
Thanks a lot.
Justin, can I ask, what was the genesis of this being put together? Was it that you knew as a school that there were particular areas about trying to bring maths and English curriculum to life that they asked for, or was it more you thinking about how can I promote the roles within my organisation? How did it come about?
I think it was more a case that I obviously recruit young people for these roles, and the standard of English, this wasn't specific to the SEAL school at all, but the standard of English from the applicants. Now, we're a small agency in Hertfordshire, so most of the applicants are from Hertfordshire, and the standard of English is not always that great. And we do, when we interview, there's 2 stages. There's the first one, which is sort of like the getting to know you, and then we do set them a skills-based task for the second interview, in the same way we do for all of our different interviews. And the standard of English is where people are let down generally. So what I wanted to become was a bit of an advocate for English for marketing as a career, because if we don't get great applicants coming through with those English skills, whether it's from the SEAL school or any other school for that matter, as an industry, we're going to really suffer.
Yeah, sure. I was just what I'm interested to find out, there wasn't a wrong answer to it. I'm trying to think that all of you have sat around a table with your careers leaders, and your coordinators at some point, and appreciate sometimes the schools or the careers leaders might be slightly more forthcoming and slightly more proactive in what they're asking for. So I was interested, really, Justine, whether it's, and forgive me, I should know push or pull marketing, whether it's something that they had asked for or they had a problem that this was your solution to. But in this case, it sounds like this
It
was
was
you
a bit of
presenting.
both.
Yeah.
Well, and it was a bit of both because it was a conversation. Steve, you were there for that. Well, we were talking about English and maths specifically, and which was why I said I agreed to do the lesson plan. But then obviously I had to take it away and think. So it is a bit of push and pull. It was solving two things at once.
Yeah. Do you think that once teachers have seen it, that you think teachers would be able to lead on it themselves, or do you think really to have it the impact that it's had, it needs you or someone in your team, or at least someone who's got a good understanding of social media and the skills that are involved in it, leading on it?
I don't think. I mean, I obviously I can't really say because I created it. I don't think it needs a me to present to do the lesson plan. The idea is that the English teacher could do that because everyone has an opinion on social. It doesn't matter where you look anywhere in the world, and everyone on this call has an opinion on social, whether it's a good one, a bad one, or whether they were, and how they use it. So everybody has an opinion. So you just, okay, I probably come across better because I'm very passionate about social media, but it actually making people think about what you see on there and the good use of English and grammar and what a difference it makes for brands, for business on, and if you want to consider that as part of your career, I think an English teacher would be able to do it. And the feedback was, Steve, that the sales school felt that was not a problem for their English department, wasn't it?
Yeah, the premise was that they wanted something that they could use off the shelf, obviously because of their link with Justine. Justine at some point might deliver or co-deliver some things or virtually drop in like you are today into the classroom. But the idea was that it would be a long-standing resource that the whole of year 8 or year 9 or 10 could use, and the English teachers would use it to make their content a bit more exciting and young people relevant and bring it to life a little bit. It also kind of evolved over a period of time because long-standing, the SEAL school, a lot of the students don't really leave the estate. So long-standing, because of COVID, we had initially tried to initiate either a Hertford walk of inspiration around businesses or a London walk around the city, seeing the Gherkin and going into the other enterprise advisors' offices. But it kept getting postponed because of the pandemic. So that's when Justine got very practical and was like, right, let's do something that can work, pandemic or non-pandemic, and got to work on this piece of work. So it kind of organically came about because of something that we couldn't run, but has been a really pleasant thing to land on, and I think we'll gain some traction. So thank you, Justine.
You're welcome.
Yeah, sure. So I think what's really impressive, or what makes this so sort of all-encompassing, is just the fact that you've been able to tap into something as ubiquitous as social media that all young people understand. And of course, the rest of you that are watching this have maybe got ideas formulating in your mind. You perhaps may not come from an industry where what you're trying to present is as well known, or is it something that young people are sort of so familiar with? But hopefully you got the seeds there for an idea, whether it's something that you as a business or as an industry know is something that your future talent and future workforce needs to be more aware of, or whether it's something that the school's asking for. I mean, linking that into or trying to shoehorn that activity into Gatsby benchmarks. I think so it's very clearly within benchmark 4 around applying careers into the English curriculum, and potentially the follow-up to that would be a maths one as well. But it's also around that encounters with employers as well, that the students that have taken part in that, by Justine and her team leading that, now have had those real life experiences and encounters with someone working in social media roles. So hopefully for some of you that might just sow a seed for things that you might be able to do, or you might be able to support in your school, whatever industry or particular roles you're talking about there. But it was a really sort of clear and very, very sort of strong and tangible link between the two. So I'm really grateful for you sharing that with me for the first time as well, Justine, but as well for being prepared to talk about it.
Thanks, Gareth.
What I would ask for, if any of you have got any other ideas, or maybe there's something that you're trying to formulate, if you maybe just put it in the chat, then we can cover that in sort of AOB at the end, or I can leave the session open if you want to sort of brainstorm with anyone else that's in here. Okay. Right then, I am going to just carry on with a few of the points I wanted to share with you. So this is something that I've not presented to you as a group of enterprise advisors, at least not through this platform or medium before. I think it's really important that you're aware of this and that you feel part of this process. So as I said, Gatsby has always been that sort of central point, and it's been a lot where our KPIs are drawn from there. But where we want to go as a hub now is to have a really focused strategic plan that we can work out, and this, quite clearly is looking slightly more holistically rather than individual schools, but we need all schools bought into this to be part of it. So I just wanted to share with you what our 7 coordinated actions are as part of our strategic plan. These coordinated actions are ones that were prepared by the Careers and Enterprise Company. So although we were given license to sort of rip these apart or to add or amend them, we felt as a strategic hub group that these actually did represent the things that we wanted to try and generate and provide some impact for across the county, working with our schools. So most of the hubs across the county will also be working across these 7 coordinated actions. Our first task as a group was to identify what our actual local priorities were. So these were just headlines, but we were given the license to come up with our own local priorities, which I'll share with you. I mean, just to read them out, the coordinated actions are: 1 is around amplifying technical and vocational routes. 2nd one is a self-improving system, which really just essentially it's that bread and butter of supporting schools across Gatsby benchmarks and ensuring that their careers education programs on a very local level are fit for purpose. 3 and 4, there's some similarities between them. 3, effective transitions is trying to make sure that all students can make the best transitions and make the best options and make the best choices about their options post 16 and post 18 predominantly. Theme 4 is around trying to remove some of the barriers that lots of young people face going into the workplace. So this is of all 7 of them, this is the one that we know that we need to do the most amount of research on to actually identify really clearly what the issues are before we can start to try and solve them. And then theme 5 is around building leaders for the system. Ostensibly, that's how we can develop and build our careers leaders, which I see you guys as enterprise advisors having a very key role in. 6 is trying to ensure that careers education links up to the needs of the local economy within Hertfordshire and at a more micro level, perhaps what's going on in districts or towns across the county as well. And then 7 is ensuring that employers feel really part of this process and that they can build those sustainable and beneficial partnerships with schools and colleges. One of the best ways of doing that is through having an enterprise advisor. So many of you perhaps fulfill that role of being that conduit between an employer and a school. There are other ways that we can try and do that as well. So this was just a bit of brainstorming that I did, really, just in trying to think, well, how can our enterprise advisors support these coordinated actions? So just before I come on, I just want to ask Ruth a question. I'm putting you on the spot here, Ruth, because I know you sit on that national forum for enterprise advisors. I'm just wondering, has these coordinated actions and strategic plans been covered with you yet, or is this sort of new to you?
No, that was covered very briefly. We had quite a packed agenda, and somebody, a head teacher, in fact, was doing the main speaking slot at that session, but it's been touched on. Sure.
Okay, but for mostly this will be the first that you're seeing of this. So this isn't a plan that is going to be delivered in each individual school. So this is across the hub as a collective, but you should find out that, or you should find that in the meetings you're having with schools, some of these are being mentioned, at least in dispatch, but sometimes it may form more of a focus around the meetings that you're having with your schools. But just trying to think about how you guys can specifically support them. Amplifying technical and vocational routes is very much around trying to make sure that we are promoting the different opportunities that students have, certainly around apprenticeships, around vocational routes, and then coming over the horizon very quickly is T levels. So we know that there's one school, which is the Broxbourne School, is going to be delivering a T level from next September, and that will be our first across the county. We've also been looking into this. I think there are about 15 schools that are signed up and registered to start delivering T levels from September 2023, and then there'll be another wave starting the year after. and eventually these will become, there'll be more and more of them around. At the moment, I've said the criticism is that there's not really a coordinated approach. So I know one example of a secondary school that's going to be delivering an education and childcare T level, but they've registered for that, not knowing that the local HE college, which is literally less than a mile away from them, is also going to be offering that. So it could be a good thing. It could mean there's more opportunities for the students to take part, or it could be that the school's setting itself up for failure because actually it's coming up against an institution that will have a far wider reach and perhaps slightly greater level of expertise and capability to deliver that. We've got, I mean, certainly the enterprise advisor who's supporting the Broxbourne school has been very proactive, and they are actually providing a couple of workplaces for students to take part in, but they're also going to be supporting those students within their interview application to get onto the role and to think about some more of those general recruitment and employability skills, because this is a student who essentially is staying on in school, but a big part of that is going to be going out into the workplace. So it's just making them prepared for going out to the workplace when essentially they're still a school student, and that's something that enterprise advisors can support. So that's maybe a question to be asking when you're in your schools. You know, are you thinking about delivering T levels? What can we do, or what can I do to help you prepare your students for that aspect of their learning? Coordinated action 2, self-improving systems. So this is really around, it's the bread and butter of what we're all doing at the moment. Some of you will have really particular knowledge and ability to support particular benchmarks. Sometimes it's just being part of that and giving them a bit of encouragement along the way, but certainly our coordinators will really be driving on that one. Effective transition. So perhaps your role is being that critical friend again. Can you challenge your school to consider the destinations that their students achieve? You know, are they studying? Are they looking at the data? So where do their students go? Are they going to college? Are they going to university? What does this tell them? Are they making effective transitions? How are those disadvantaged students being catered for and looked after? I'm particularly mindful now, Justine, just doing her presentation around typos, that I've misspelt targeted there. So forgive me for that one, Justine. Removing barriers. So really, this is one that we want to do a lot of research on. So you may already have been privy to these conversations going on within your schools, but our coordinators will be asking schools fairly directly, who are the types of students that you feel have the most barriers or have significant barriers that will prevent them making successful employment outcomes, and what can we do to help try and remove those barriers and try and alleviate those? We've got a very small sample size at the moment. We're looking to gather some anecdotal evidence throughout this term, but what we're hearing a lot of is schools saying that they've got real fears and concerns around students in terms of anxiety, in terms of resilience and confidence that's particularly been brought up as a result of the pandemic, and perhaps it's denied them the opportunities to develop some of those social skills. So they see that as being a real barrier that's going to prevent some students from making those positive outcomes. More traditionally, I mean, we've heard on I think numerous occasions schools say we've got those traditional group of white working class boys growing up on council estates who have very, very low aspirations and really don't get to see or don't get to find out about those range of opportunities that are available to them because their own social capital and their own social networks are fairly low. So the example that Justine's given you already could be a really, really powerful one there, where the school she's working with, many of those students will fit into that demographic. So being able to see that there are roles within social media could be really, really empowering for some of the young people that are out there. So that may be some of those more traditional barriers. Building leaders for the system is trying to encourage our careers leaders to elevate themselves within their role. And I think this is where a lot of you who have leadership roles or support leaders within business can be really, really important here. It's trying to make sure that those careers leaders and in turn their senior leaders and head teachers recognise the fact that the word leader in that title is really important. They're not a careers administrator, they're not even a careers manager, they're a careers leader. So everything that comes with leadership and being a leader is really important. And there are some really good cases around of how the individuals within schools have actually been able to elevate their own role within the school and their own prominence, and being able to share those messages with colleagues around what it is they're actually trying to do. So anything that you might be able to support those, those individuals who you will be building relationships with around leadership styles or capabilities could be really, really powerful. And that's something that naturally a lot of you will live and breathe on a daily basis. Then thinking about careers education as part of an economic growth, we'll be increasingly talking about our priority sectors within Hertfordshire, which I'll share with you on a slide that will come up. But thinking about, does your organisation and business, do they represent one of those priority sectors in Hertfordshire? And if so, what can you do to really make sure that students, teachers, parents are aware of the importance and the prominence of that particular industry and those particular roles that come within that? We are building, so some of you sit on our Cornerstone Employer Group, which is a network of some of our larger employers that come together to try and form some collaborative support for our hub. What we are now looking to try and do is to build on that by creating industry sector groups as well. So for our 7 priority sectors, creating a network of employers from both large and from small organisations, as well as one of the local colleges, as well as any trade bodies that maybe represent those as well, to really find out on a sector base, where are those challenges at the moment around skills and future workforce development? What are the key messages and what are the positive messages that we want young people in that future workforce to be aware of? Perhaps what even do we want teachers to work off? So our construction group is the first one that we've got off the ground, and Natalie, who's on the call at the moment, sits on that group. We met for the first time and we had some really, really good conversations, actually listening to both large and smaller employers about how they think the construction industry would be better promoted around schools and some of those challenges that we have on there. So we're looking to create those across all 6 of those. And then that 7th coordinated action around employers building sustainable, mutually beneficial partnerships with schools and colleges. So as an enterprise advisor, you may already be doing that, but it's thinking about making sure those relationships and partnerships are really deep rooted. So if any of you who have built those relationships won the lottery tomorrow and left your role, are those links in place with the rest of the organisation here? And can we make sure that we are creating this as a mutually beneficial role? So this isn't just about you being a volunteer and and having being drained for support and the school gaining a lot from that. It is about that, but it's also about what do you and your business gain out of that as well. And hopefully there's always plenty of really positive things that businesses and employers can get out of this relationship that makes it worthwhile. I've probably talked all around these, so I won't go into these in any detail, but this is just sharing with you what the local priority has been that has been identified for each of these coordinated actions. And so this will be something that will be shared with you. It's something to be aware of rather than something that should necessarily be at the forefront of your mind. This should more be driven by the coordinators when they're going in and leading these schools meetings, but the things that we hope that you will see the value in that bigger picture as well. So the priority sectors there, these are, and we see HOP as being a really, really valuable tool in helping to promote these priority sectors, and there's a lot of work that's being done through those sector groups in really trying to bring these to life and making sure that 15-16-year-olds really understand them and can see what's out there in the future for them. So they are life sciences, technology, engineering and advanced manufacturing, financial and business services, film, media and creative, the construction and built environment, and health and social care are currently our listed priority sectors. We also recognise that around leisure and hospitality is quite a key one as well. The green economy is definitely a booming one as well that we want young people to be aware of. So they may well be added to those listed priority sectors. So that this isn't an exhaustive one, and it's one that may well be added to. So I think I'm gonna take the slide down there at that point. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts on any of that sort of wider strategic plan, or any thoughts about how that might relate to sort of conversations that you're having at a local level with your schools? No, okay. So, like I say, really, I hope that's something that would just be sort of there in the background from from your perspective. Some of it may become more prominent than others. So, particularly those conversations around removing barriers. Always really keen when those conversations are had in school for you to be reflecting as an employer, perhaps barriers that you see that young people have, either whether that's through the recruitment process. So, I mean, Justine spoke about looking at the sort of the quality of applications that you get in there. So for some people, that is their barrier to employment. It's that preparedness for going into the application process, and particularly around, I guess, some sort of grammar, which is using fundamental English and math skills. But you also may be aware of some of those barriers and how they present themselves actually when young people are in the workplace as well. So you may very well have some really, really key input for those conversations as they are being had. Okay, if anyone has any more thoughts on those, then either let us know in the chat or get in touch with us subsequently, but really keen to get your thoughts and input on that going forward. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Steve now, who can share with you some details of any useful resources or websites that you may be aware of that may be beneficial for you to use with your school. So, Steve.
Thanks, Gareth. Was that shared on your screen, Gareth? Brilliant. So, morning, everybody. Great to see so many of you on the call. Sort of jumping off the back of quite a bit of the theme of today, including Justine's resources. We're really pleased to launch this week a new section on HOP around Gatsby benchmark resources. We'd really like you to push this into your schools and the colleges that you support, and start to try and encourage your careers leaders where they do things well to get things uploaded onto HOP to share wider with other schools to help them with the benchmarks. So Sam Sullivan, who's been on the call today, we're starting to get some new Tesco's finance lessons up onto HOP, some English lessons from them, obviously Justine's English lessons on there for some examples. But it'd be great, either you as business organisations, as you build resources to get them up onto HOP, or for you to encourage your careers leaders who are doing particular benchmarks well to send things through. So my contact details are there for you to send through any resources that you would like uploading. And we also recognise that careers leaders and enterprise advisors are very busy. So we do run inductions 2 or 3 times a year for enterprise advisors and for careers leaders. But we recognise that not everyone can always make those inductions on the time and the date that they're set. So again, this week in the same section, we've also uploaded an example of an enterprise advisor induction and a careers leader induction. So if you are new to role and you want to watch that, help yourself and have a click on those. But these are some things that we're going to push out quite heavily over the next month or so throughout the Careers Hub. One of our partners in the Careers Hub, STEM Point East, has reached out to us this week, and they're doing a great STEM mentoring campaign for Year 12 and Year 13 students, which is open until the 28th of March. And then the events itself will start running on the 4th of April. So if you're going into your school in the next few weeks before the 28th of March, please feel free to share this with your school or careers leader and encourage some of their Year 12 and 13 students on STEM courses such as science, technology, engineering and maths related courses, where they can get a real online great mentoring from people in the industry who are really wanting to help students get their first step onto the ladder in a career in STEM. National Careers Week is coming up on the 7th to the 12th of March. So if your organisation's doing anything, please let us know and we can and reshare that on our social media outlets. But also just encourage your school or your college that you're supporting, just have a conversation to see if they're doing anything. If they need any help, HOP again has got some great resources that they can use in lessons. So you've got the growth sector videos that we've talked a little bit about with the NHS one there highlighted that can be used in tutor time in National Careers Week. Gareth and various of you on the call have helped create the amazing virtual employer encounters. So there's now a suite of between 45 and 50 of those now, which could be used again in National Careers Week, or we've got the 6 free HOP lesson plans around labour market information, work experience and the Hertfordshire Skills Framework. So again, just highlighting those to your schools, we'd really be grateful if you could do that for us. In the same week is also International Women's Day. So there's Speakers for Schools have got an aviation and aerospace day, but please do let us know if your organisation's doing anything for either for National Careers Week or International Women's Day, and we can help share that wider within the Careers Hub and the schools. We're obviously all on an online session today, but we'd actively encourage you all to try and come along and rub shoulders at some of our face-to-face networking events we've got also in National Careers Week. Sadly, we think we've fallen victim to trying to run something on a Monday isn't usually a business operation wise and school operation wise the best. So our Hertford Regional College event that was going to be on Monday the 7th of March is going to need to be postponed. Please feel free to put in the chat a day of the week and a time that you think works best for you, but we're thinking of maybe a Wednesday, rerunning it a bit later in the year, maybe at that sort of 3:45 slot, so the teachers can get out as well as you guys. But we are running on Tuesday the 8th, Catherine Warrington School for St Albans Decorum area, 2:30 till 4 for careers leaders and EAs. Wednesday the 9th at Chesbrook Education Support Centre for Watford, Three Rivers and Hartsmere Schools, 2:30. And on Thursday, the 10th of March at North Herts College, Hitchin Campus, was originally at Stevenage, but now at Hitchin Campus, 2:30 till 4. So we'd love to have a few of you along. You may find those invites in your calendars, but if you haven't, please get in touch with myself or your enterprise coordinator and we'll get those to you today. And then we've got a Gatsby Benchmark 1 and 3 workshop on the 16th of March. Love to have any of you come onto that if you're available. That will be on Zoom, and again, an invite has gone out for that session. And we've got someone coming from Quality and Careers Standard to talk about that, and then we've got various different careers leaders who've either done the Quality and Careers Standard or they've got really good resources for Gatsby Benchmark 1 and 3. So that'll be a really nice session that we'll be running. Again, Sam and Justine, who are on the call, have both been on the one before where we had over 70 people come to our Careers in the Curriculum one. But if you're unable to attend that, we've got our Gatsby Benchmark 4, the Labour Market Gatsby Benchmark 2 and the Gatsby Benchmark 7 are all on Hop as well to watch back if you want to do that for some CPD. We've got an Enterprise Advisor survey out at the moment. So the link there, we'll send this presentation out in the minutes, but there's a link there, or one of my colleagues might pop that in the chat for an Enterprise Advisor survey. So over a cuppa, if you wouldn't mind over the next week or so completing an Enterprise Advisor survey, we really greatly appreciate that. We're also running some surveys in schools at the moment around apprenticeships. So there's a parental survey out currently, and next week we're going to be doing a teacher's survey around apprenticeships. So again, just encouraging your schools or colleges to fill those out when you next meet with them. There's a new careers platform that's come about. I think quite a lot of us on the call know a lot about Unifrog and Start Profile, but Would You Rather Be is a new one. It's gamified, artificial intelligence based, so very sort of young people relevant personality quiz, a little bit like the Moresby test, but a bit more exciting and a bit more visual, which has become available. So again, if that's something that your school might be interested in, there's the contact email address there. And there is a charge for that, and some schools have been using their bursary for if their careers leader has done the careers leader course. Then moving on to sort of maybe how we can help some of you. If you've got any apprenticeship vacancies going live, like in the future, Justine mentioned she will, we're really happy to share those wider with our audience of the 110 schools and their students as that future talent pipeline. So TK Maxx or TJX, who are their kind of head office equivalent, have got some finance apprenticeships and some buyer apprenticeships and some merchandising apprenticeships currently in Watford. One of our other partners, Computer Centre, are recruiting for 2 or 3 different apprenticeship roles in Hatfield. So again, this is a really good way of getting this out to the schools, and Airbus are currently recruiting for their degree apprenticeships as well. Another partner from the Careers Hub, Morgan Sindall, has got some great project management virtual work experience placements coming up in March, May, June and July. And again, some of the most successful students on those may get the opportunity to go to a local site to do some actual work experience. Tesco's are running a virtual opportunity in March to help those students thinking of entering the workplace to get their CV ready, get interview ready, so they can sign up to that session as well. And then Nandi, who's on the call, the NHS have got a great Future Heroes event coming up on the 29th of March. They're up to 500 tickets per session, and I think they've got about 600 students coming so far. So that there is some more space for other schools to sign up. So next time you're talking to your school, just check to see if they've signed up to the Future Heroes event, and that is actually face to face. And then the NHS is running various virtual work experience schemes at the moment. So the details of those are also attached here if you want to click through and have a look at those. Finally, we've got our last chance opportunity for our careers leaders to sign up to £2,000 or £3,000 worth of free careers leader level 6 training. It takes an academic year to complete, and they get £1,000 bursary for their school at the end. It's all completely free. And Gareth has pulled together some really interesting research that shows that careers leaders that have done the training on average achieve 6 or more benchmarks compared to careers leaders who haven't done the training, coming in at around 4.39 benchmarks out of 8. So the last push really, if you're having any comms with your school, just to see if the careers leader has done the training or if they would be interested. So thanks for joining us all today, Gareth, and back to you.
Yeah, I need to say, well, Jackie has as well. We put the link in for the EA service. This is something CEC have asked to do, and we are given a target. We just about got the bare minimum number through last year. So if with all of you on the call at the moment are able just to click that link now and do it in a separate browser, that would be open. That would take us well beyond our targets from last year. We will share this with the wider EA group, so it's in the chat at the moment. So I think Jackie's posted the same links, that should take you through exactly the same place. But yeah, if you've got 10 minutes to spare that you can do that, that would be very much appreciated. So all that's left for me is just to say thank you all for coming along and joining us this morning and for contributing to the conversations. So particularly to Justine for sharing her activity that she's done, which I can tell was really positively received, and that's all giving you lots of ideas for things to take forward. If anyone's got any general points that they want to raise or they want to ask, then the opportunity to do it now. Otherwise, all of us as coordinators will stay on the call. We'll stop recording it as well. So if there's anything you want to discuss with us or ideas you want to bounce around with us, then please hold on for a few minutes. You're more than welcome to do that. But so do just be reassured that your role in this is still absolutely essential. We really welcome the time and the effort that you give to the programme, and I know it may not always be as forthcoming as it should be, but the schools do as well. So thank you. We really look forward to working with you, and so maybe seeing some of you for some of the careers leader sessions that we do. But enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a fantastic weekend, everyone.
Oh, I forgot to look whilst I was talking.
Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.